Triton Freightliner truck rear-ended a shuttle bus heading back from Richmond at 1:30 in the morning. 3 passengers in the bus, Montia Tia Bowie, along with brothers John Tay Russell and Xavier Evans, were killed. According to a report from the National Transportation Safety Board, Triton had listed Sykes as the co-driver along with the real driver, Daniel Kramer. That would give the impression that Kramer had some relief and was better rested in his route from St. Louis to Chesapeake.
The question up for debate: was Dwayne hiding something, or was he about to unleash the dogs? Today's newest outlet for your news and viewpoints on trucking. We're debating the issues. We're putting it out here for you to know and debate what's good, what's bad, what's right, and what's not. Choose to like this and stand up for the truth in broadcasting by becoming a subscriber to this channel. I encourage you. We handpick select stories where the press is either deficient or lacking attention or just plain bought out by the corporate elites. Either way, you have the opportunity to prove them wrong or prove me right. Either way, it's a hell of a fun. So welcome aboard, sit down, grab your coffee, and get ready for another broadcast like you've never seen before. We're all about the issues. We're having fun. We're grabbing facts. We're grabbing time. We're doing it basically in 2 different ways. We do it here on Frontlines, and we do it during the week on something else called Media Matters. You know, it's all right here. I mean, plainly. Frontlines we do on Saturdays mainly, but I'm incorporating this show right here on Wednesday evenings at 7:30. So I encourage you to look for future episodes and look for future lives just like this one, where we talk about issues you need to know about that, well, you know, without knowing about it, could probably affect your trucking career. So we're all about the truth. We're all about debating the issues, and we're all about helping you make a difference in trucking. And of course, a good cup of coffee. So let's first talk about today in trucking history. You know, prior to the 30s, there was 2 different outlets that used to run trucking. I learned this from a friend of mine on TikTok that him and I got back and forth about, you know, the history of the ICC and all that stuff. So I've since done some research and figured out that there was an American Highway Freight Association, and then there was also a Federation of Trucking Associations. Basically, 2 of these guys were doing pretty much the same things, but they were kind of at odds. So prior to 1933, they were the ones running the show. And then the government passed something called the Code of Fair Competition. And these 2 groups came together and formed what we today know as the American Trucking Association, or the ATA. Now, talk all the junk you want, whether they're good, they're bad, put it in the comments. Let us know what your thoughts are about the ATA, as complicated as they may be. But they are there. And now you know about today in trucking history. So let's get on to today's story. Let's talk about Triton Logistics. Not long ago, about 15 months ago, actually, a bad wreck happened in Virginia on I-64, and it involved a major transportation company, just as you see here on the screen. I got to get my lefts and rights ready. Triton Logistics is a family-owned company that was founded in 2011, and it's grown to be one of the largest and most fastest-growing and well-known logistics company in the Chicago area. And they have quite a crew of drivers and a large fleet. Now, the accident again occurred about 15 months ago and was found to be due to driver fatigue. But as you see in this clip that I started out with, there was a lot of back and forth about who was actually driving and who was actually responsible for the logbooks. So the investigation that ensued started a large chain of events as to, okay, how exactly are these e-logs run and exactly what goes on with these drivers. The NTSB reported that the driver involved in the accident alleged that the company had a method for altering the ELDs. Now, Dwayne Sykes was alleged to be involved in this, but he was woke up in the middle of the night and told that he was basically at large because he was the co-driver supposedly involved in this accident. Well, later found out he wasn't. He had quit prior to the accident happening. But for, what it's worth, he was unknowingly thrust into the investigation because his name was in the system. And Triton was alleged to have used his ID in helping the driver involved in the accident, Dwayne Carter, cover his tracks and drive beyond the legally allowed 11 and 14 that you're supposed to do. So that is basically the crux of the story. So what we're going to cover tonight is basically some of the common things that came up as a result of the investigation. One particular thing I thought I took note of is by the way, all the links will be below in the comments, and they will be available for you to look at, both the video I highlighted and two very good articles about information that we're going to cover tonight. I encourage you to pull them all up. But one of the comments I looked at under the newscast says a lot. It really does. It says, one of the guys that used to drive for Triton says he used to drive, and before they got big, I used to drive 4,500 to 5,000 miles a week by myself. They've been cooking the books for years. Kind of makes you think, well, is that a common thing? Is it really a practice that a lot of companies can, quote, get away with? I mean, what are we looking at here? I mean, are we looking at all these drivers just, freewheeling it and getting involved in all these underhanded things? I'd hate to think not. I mean, it's really scary when you think about it. I want to welcome a couple of viewers. WCF Invader, God bless you. Welcome to the show. He's been big time, contributing to the show. Let me know what you think about, Wednesday night as opposed to Saturday morning. If you're on board, kindly let me know. He says, been listening, love the professional show and put out, very high end. Thank you. I appreciate that. That's very good. Good to know. Prison time incoming. Yes, with something like that showing up. My comments aren't showing up. Sorry about that, folks. He said, good day to you all. That's it. Good. I'm glad you're with us. Thank you for that. Up for debate. Hey, look, from what we know, the concept of altering logbooks is more common in the industry. And yeah, we need to get we need to get a clamp on this. I mean, if you've dealt personally, if you're watching this show and you've dealt personally with fleet managers or anyone that's actually given you, instructions to do things under, how would you word it? I mean, under the radar or whatever. Call the number right there. Call the number 860-785-3547. Let us know. if you've actually been prompted to kind of, yeah, let's skirt the rules, let's do something that doesn't sound safe, even if it's not cooking the books or similar to this exact story, let us know some of the things that yeah, you don't have to name companies. We don't want to shame people or put people under unless they have the capability of coming up on the show and defending themselves. But if you've been put through a situation that seems kind of shady, call us and let us know. I mean, we're all about trying to educate you, the viewers. If you're a truck driver, if you're actually part of the industry and you're watching, I basically want people to know, hey, if you see a semi truck on the road, we're not just haphazardly cooking books and running out there amok and doing things, because we're truck drivers, we have to get the job done. No, there is rules and there is a way of doing things safely. That is our job. That is our responsibility, because if we do not, guess what happens? Your shelves stay empty and our bank accounts go. That's not exactly a good way to do things. So, WCF Invader says, keep trucking, allows fleet owners to adjust drive line. I cannot do it through my driver login, but as an admin, I do have the ability to adjust drive time. Just something I found interesting. And to a degree, yes, WCF Invader, I do agree with that. On the guys that what you're doing, you can make adjustments. However, you've got to be very careful with those adjustments, because there's always Big Brother watching over your shoulder. So, for example, a big misconception amongst all drivers, especially with Keep Trucking, is how you handle PC. I myself don't like using PC. Put down in the comments if you've ever been busted or criticized for using PC incorrectly. But that's an area that basically a lot of companies are liberal nowadays and don't really enforce huge requirements. And that, as far as Landstar, they've hugely put out a lot of reminders and said, hey, look, do things right, because upcoming on the 16th through the 20th, if you're not aware, be warned now, there is a big push to do inspections nationwide. And they're going to be looking at things like that. So make sure, if you're on top of doing PC, make sure you do them legally and rightfully. Look at the rules and laws. Okay. But this process we're talking about tonight, it's kind of tantamount to the airline industry. And you know what? I think if things keep going the way this accident and the press around this accident keep going, we're going to become glorified pilots. So let's bring a guest on and let's get some personal perspective from someone else that's in the industry, that has plenty of experience and is more than capable of giving us an expert opinion. You know him and love him, the grumpy old trucker himself. How you doing, Frank?
I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out that thing, the pocketbook. What's that?
Hey, ready-made sound effects. What do you want? We have someone missing us tonight. I am also simulcasting on Driving with John, but he's unfortunately getting some rest and doing things the safe way. So many kudos to him. Get the rest you need. Be safe, my friend. We'll still carry it and we'll still make it happen. So if you're missing him, many apologies to you guys, but you're still hearing the show here. So, I mean, in terms of being regulated to the point where we're pilots, I mean, did you ever think you'd see that day coming, Frank? I mean, good Lord, it's just one thing after another. You see accident report, NTSB investigations. Now we're talking about this. I mean, you think it's going to get as bad as the pilot industries, today? I mean, what do you think?
Honestly, yes. I believe it's going to be cracked down even harder over the time. I don't know how long it's going to take, but it's going to get worse with regulations and rules. because they're constantly trying to figure out new ways to control it. Drivers out there, not only bus safely, but also by, you know, like changing to the ELD system from what we were used to when we used to just write it on a little carbon copy and go on about our day every day.
Yeah.
But I believe
Well,
honestly that. Go ahead.
you know, we've gone from paper now to digital logs, and now it's, you know, just it's incrementally becoming more difficult to lie by default. And you would expect it to be difficult from the perspective of us as drivers. But now we're talking about companies being involved in this. Think about this. We're talking about a huge company, big in the Chicago area. I mean, you know, Triton Logistics, as big as they are, you would think as many drivers as they have, they would be on the up and they would also kind of enforce, hey, look, we need to keep our shit together and keep it safe. But obviously, the NTSB investigation found otherwise. So now we're dealing with this. And I guess we're talking about PC. WCM Invader says, I don't do it all, just something I was just surprised was even allowed. I use PC and have an FAQ from the FMCSA in my binder, as we all do. And I only use it if it falls in one of those specific situations. Yes. Thank you for that, WCF Invader. And I don't use it plainly at all. I mean, the only time I've really entertained the idea of using PC is when I'm completely slap out of time, backup plan. And you watch my videos, you'll see all about my, you know, constantly enticing people to have a plan and a backup plan and even a plan C. But when all those fail, then I fall back on PC and I have to look at the closest possible alternative to be able to park safely. And that's the only time I use it. So what about you, Frank? When do you fall back on PC and how often
Well,
do you
you
find
know,
yourself using it?
PC is a very touchy subject with a lot of different companies because some companies don't even allow it. They take it completely off the ELD where it's not even available. Um,
Mhm.
Most of the companies I've ever worked for, generally it's used to go from like point A to B and back to A, which is basically B being like a grocery store, truck stop to go take a shower, get your food, something like that, and then return back to A. You know, some of
Yeah.
them would tell me, hey, use it to go home after you've dropped your trailer because you're technically not on duty. So I would do that. It all depends on your company you're working for, and the safety department is supposed to know the rules and regulations also. So they would be able to say, you know, yes, that's okay. No, that's not. And I would always touch base with them to make sure because I never
Right.
wanted to do something that was wrong and then I not have someone to back me up.
No, no, of course not. You never want to have a situation where you do something on your own, and then later on, uh, when you're questioned by DOT or you know that level 3 inspection that you didn't expect, you know, all of a sudden you're like, you you have no answers. You really want to keep yourself on the up and up, and you definitely want to make sure that you know your facts are straight. He said, in fact, I found out today I show too much on my duty time. Kudos to you, my friend. Kudos to you. Rather show too much instead of too little on duty time. DOT officers don't question my logs as much and have told me my logs are spotless. Amen, brother. God bless you. That is what the industry's about. And that is what people need to see more of when they watch shows like this. So definitely keep up the good work on that. You know, look, I mean, with all the accidents that we've been seeing and all the bad stuff that goes on, you know, one of the things we're noticing is DOT and those responsible are wanting to add more checks and balances to us. They're wanting to kind of go the direction of like the airline pilots. The NTSB Aviation Accident Database contains civil aviation accidents and selected incidents dating back as far as 1962 to the present. While its primary focus is on accidents, it provides a valuable information database related to basic problems with logging on duty times. Now, what I just read to you is basically what sits in terms of airline pilots. But think about it. The same requirements are asked of us driving on national highways, state to state, day to day, every time. So think about it. Comment below and put in the chat, what's your best take on a way to tackle this from the ground up and actually make sure that our rights aren't impinged, but at the same time, accidents like you viewed at the start of this show don't become commonplace. Because think about it. We've got two things going on here. We've got your honesty as a driver, but we've also got the honesty of the company in question. So there's two different forces kind of coming together here. And when you think about it, sometimes they work against one another. And when you find yourself in a situation, thankfully, maybe it's not as serious as the accident in question on I-64 15 months ago. Well, let's say you just scrape a fender. Let's say you just make a mistake and go down a one-way street and top off your trailer and have an incident with a bridge. Any number of circumstances. If your logbook is at all even slightly askew, you, not your company, you are the one facing penalties, problems, points, issues, unhireability. You're the one being hung out to dry. So for Triton Logistics to tell Dwayne Carter or whatever his first name, I get the two confused, to tell him, oh, let's doctor it. Let's put Dwayne's sights in there. Just keep driving. Got to get the load delivered. That's wrong. Triton should be held accountable, and they should be made to pay for their mistakes because that led to deaths and that led to problem. So, we're talking tonight about safety. We're talking about accountability. Normally, it's about the media, but tonight, I'm tasking Triton Logistics with, you messed up, my friend. You need to look at your stuff and fix it because you know what? If I am a driver, I'm not going to post comments or issues like you first saw sitting here. This ain't going to be something I write back to a newscaster. You'll never see this on my record. I can guarantee you. So call us up. Let us know your experiences. Tell us what you think. Give us a call, 860-785-3547. 860-785-3547. We're moving on in the comments, and we're also enjoying a conversation with our fellow Frank here. I don't work weekends, so I never run out of my 70. That's a continuation from his last comment. God bless it. In all honesty, it falls on the government to keep tabs on these characters. Yes, I said characters. You put carriers, I say characters. Once you have your new entrance safety audit, there is no accountability until something major happens. That's a term I really didn't think I'd see before the comment come up. But yeah, what he's talking about is basically, look, the government looks at you once. And if you pass all the bells and whistles, they pretty much don't look at you until you have a problem. So good point, WCF Invader. Good point. Thank you for that. And that really, goes to basically the first question I brought up tonight. Hey, look at it. When it comes down to what we do every day, think about it. How confident are you about the effectiveness of current regulations and current things that exist as we know it? I bitch and complain every day that we have too many regulations, with too many rules. But if stuff like this can happen, okay, I'm going to step back and say, well, maybe not. Maybe we do need some help in this. Maybe there is something to, okay, maybe we do need some oversight. Think about it, Frank. In your estimation, when you're thinking about safety and things like this happening, do you think we need more or do you think we need less? What say you?
It can't hurt to add a little bit to it because I'm telling you right now, what's going to happen since this accident has happened like that, and people are starting to learn how to do the cooking of the books of the ELDs, which has been going on for a while. Honestly, the way I look at it, they're going to probably enforce something where it's similar to the clearinghouse, to where when a driver leaves a company, that they have to put it in there showing they're no longer employed so that it can go on and be not used until the other employer picks them up if they go back to work. And honestly, that seems like to me a good plan. It helps keep another driver out of trouble.
Mhm. And what do you think about the current setup? I mean, do you think that regulatory agencies should address pressures on us as drivers, or do you think they need to focus more on companies?
Well, myself, I believe it had to be more on the companies, because a lot of, like you see here, that a lot of the companies are taking advantage of it and aren't getting caught until it's too late, and then they try to blame it on the driver. Which, yeah,
Yep.
that part I say the driver was partly at fault because he knew better, but the
Yep.
company also knew better.
Second question, I think you can see sitting right there on the screen, right here. How easy is it for you to fix your logbooks to get ahead today? Now, we're not just talking about PC, we're talking about anything else. I mean, you get 70 hours a week, you only get just so many hours a day. But as WCF Invader pointed out, he's got some flexibility. He's got some ways about it. He chooses not to do it, and he chooses the right way. But I mean, think about it. How easy is it for you? I mean, you're currently kind of between companies, so think back on your experiences. Think about the previous companies you worked for. How does that question apply to you, Frank?
Well, to let you know, every company I've ever worked for, the only thing that we were allowed to change would be on duty, off duty, and I believe some of the companies I was able to do take care of like yard move. But as far as any kind of driving, like with PC, we had to contact our safety department, and then they show an audit in there, which still shows on our logbook. But if in question, they can find out what's going on with, like, if we get pulled into a scale house.
Right. Something I learned, and this was about I want to say about 2 months ago. I mean, I was at a truck stop. I was overtime. I had long started about 4 or 5 hours prior to what I'm about to talk about. So I was already 5 hours into my 10-hour break. So I was way over my 14. And as it stands, I normally park about 3, 4 in the morning. And so by the time what I'm about to tell you happened, it was like about 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. And I went to make an adjustment to my clock because I was at the Petrol in Racine. Now, anybody that drives truck, they know how big that parking lot is. I was way out and back. I mean, way out there. Okay. And I had to pee. I didn't want to walk all the way. I mean, even as big as that parking lot is, it's still quite a walk when you go all the way up to the freaking service bay, because they got the porta johns up there at service bay. They don't have nothing at the back of the lot, of course. And I'm not one of those to let it fly out and pee in the back of the trailer. No. That's disgusting. Don't do it, guys. Keep it in your pants. Walk up to a bathroom. Anyway, so I'm sitting there. I want to do this kind of stuff. So I put the Keep Trucking app into PC. And I've been told that if you put down parking lot movement, you can move as long as you're, like within like less than a mile, or you don't exceed, a great amount. It's legal. My company allows it, so no problem. So I put it into, or think I put it into PC, and I start to move across the parking lot, wanting to go all the way up toward the front of the building. And all of a sudden, I see this red thing on you, because if any of you know what Keep Trucking is, as soon as you get a violation, you get this boom. You get this notification telling you you're in violation. And I'd already been in break 5 hours. This thing tells me I've violated. I've moved or whatever. So I come to a stop immediately. I have to contact the log department, and they tell me that because I did that 5 hours in, I have to now sit for an additional 7 hours. So that means I'm now 2 hours extra on my 10-hour break because I screwed up and didn't do the right thing. Okay. You know, that was on me, but that's just what happens to me if I don't do the right thing by personal conveyance. And it's one of the reasons I don't use it very much, because sometimes I can't tell with my tablet if it actually caught or if it's actually working. So that's one of the circumstances, and the reason I mention it is because of what you just said a minute ago. I don't like using it, and that puts you in. Now, these things are great when you do violate. Boom, it tells you. And of course, this happened months ago. So, you know, anytime for that, like 1 or 2 weeks, if I'd gotten pulled in for level 3, I would have had to explain, you know, which my log department told me what to put in, what to write down, and they understood the problem. So it wasn't like I was the bad guy. But it happens, you know, but I couldn't get in there and fix that because I didn't really want to drive. I didn't want to move. I just wanted to move the truck close to the building so I didn't have to walk a half a freaking mile to relieve myself, you know. So that's one of those things, you know. It's
And
really kind of hard to honestly keep a tab on, you know, how to do it. That's from a
and
driver's perspective. Now, from a company, it's totally different. What do you think, Frank?
I want to add to your little story there. In your
Yeah.
situation, the way our ELDs are supposed to be set up with all companies is it has the GPS tracking. Okay. Now, I don't know
Yeah.
how yours works, but that's the way most of them I've been with. The GPS is going to show them where the movements approximately went with that truck. So that would help back you up to show that you're not actually leaving that property. So
Mhm.
that's why your log department told you to put certain things in there. So that way, if you did get pulled into a scale, they read your logbooks, they're going to tell, oh, okay, you did this on this day. Shame on you. Then you can say, well, my log department has records. They can show you what happened.
Yes.
And then they can
Yes.
send that to them. They look it over, review it, and then it's a less of a chance of a violation for you. That doesn't mean they still
Yeah.
won't give you a ticket, but you'll have a less of a violation.
Right. As long as you've got your ducks in a row and you've got things listed the way FMCSA requires, that you're actually in sleeper berth long enough to get an adequate amount of sleep, and that you're off duty for the required 10 hours. Okay. And you're not on the streets operating. Most times they're not going to give you any violation, you know, because I mean, it's all subjective. I mean, something like moving around a parking lot, you know, a grand total of 1,500 feet, for example, or whatever. I don't know a cop or an inspector yet that's going to say something negative about it. Yeah, okay, you want to move closer, you want to be whatever. Some of us guys aren't exactly, you know, you can attest to this. We're not capable of walking a mile for a freaking bathroom break. Okay, you know that's for the young guys. That's on them. You know, and for their shovels and all that. Yeah, we're not talking about on this show. We're talking about just making the right choices and the legal effort, making the legal effort to make it where you are legal instead of falsifying records, instead of making it look like, oh, when I drove 16 hours, which you're legally not allowed to do, I only drove 14. Somebody else drove the other 2. You know, companies need to stop that, because you know what? That kind of stuff is making us look bad. And it's really affecting us negatively too. So I mean, just based on what we're talking about, you know, something as mundane as PC is now a problem because of this kind of thing that we're talking about tonight. You know, back in the day, it was no big deal. You know, when I first started back in 2012, if you wanted PC, you could literally write anything on that. This is back when I was running Omnitrax. You could literally write anything in the drive line or the the note section, and it would pass. You know, and it was right around 2016, 2017, I think. They made adjustments and they said, nope, you can only do it if this and if when, and they put all these conditions. And I was like, good Lord. So basically you can't use it, you know. You know, some companies will force the driver to work past their hours of service or they're out the door. I didn't believe it until I saw firsthand at a carrier I used to work for. Well, don't tell me the carrier, because it's probably going to be one of the same I've worked for too myself. And he goes on to say another thing. They lied. they can adjust that to off-duty PC through the admin log. Well, you know what? I think they can, but also to small degrees, I have to take exception to that, because the one situation I just related to you, I asked the guy, look, I didn't mean to go into accidentally drive time. I meant to put it in PC. Can you fix it? And the problem is the time it takes for you to actually hit the button on the phone and call them up. If the system receives that signal from your ELD and says you've done X, they're screwed. They cannot make any adjustments. That's what the guy on from Motive told me. You know, once it's been done and received by the database, they cannot edit it. That's their story. That's what I was told. So you may have been lucky in your case, WCF Invader, but I wasn't. I could not do anything about it. Same ELD I use, you could notate it at least. I've been told it makes it legal. And in that case, that's what I had to do. I actually had to wait the actual 7-hour period. It was a split time, basically. That's what they equated to. And I had to notate it in logs. And I never got questioned about it, but it was just a learning process I went through. And I was like, oh my God. So now I see this kind of news story and I'm like, if they're so anal on what they're doing with us for this, how could Dwayne Sykes be involved in this? I mean, he didn't even work for the company for almost 2 months past this wreck, and he was called it. They actually thought he was on the run. They actually thought he left the truck in an accident, and he was, where are you? We need you. Blah blah blah. I mean, it was quite hairy. If you do some investigation, you'll see what I'm talking about. I would hate to be him. I really would. I mean, especially knowing what we're talking about now. I'm rambling. Think about it though. What do you say, Frank? What's your thoughts?
Well, I was going to touch back with that PC deal is the factor that the biggest reason why they changed a lot of the rules and regulations on it is because too many companies were taking advantage of it, as well as drivers, and actually using it to finish up a route whenever they're not supposed to. So that's why they started getting more touchier with it, and they keep getting harder and harder on it because they don't want that to go on. So yeah. Before long, they're going to take it away from us totally.
Yeah, especially PC. So which brings me to my next question. What can we do? I mean, what can be done to address these concerns? I mean, it's all on us, it seems like. I mean, these accidents and these investigations clearly point out the companies have some play in this. But yet, we are the ones looked upon as the bad guys. We are the ones looked on as the ones that screw things up. But let's think about the companies. Let's think about the Triton Logistics. Let's think about the Schneiders and the Warners and all the bigger companies that have all this power and influence. You see the question, what can be done to address concerns and put pressures on us? But what about the companies? Put it in the chat. Tell me, what do you think needs to happen to make these companies come clean and do the right thing? Okay? Maybe it's more regulations, but those regulations generally hit us. What about the companies? What about these Tritons? I mean, what about these people that just flagrantly look at, okay, all these violations, all these problems, okay? What about people like this, accident scenes like this? Okay, it's not just us. It's people like them too. Okay, they're the ones that also burden themselves with the responsibility. They owe us transparency. They owe us the responsibility of not only instructing us what they're going to allow, but they also owe us the burden of, hey, look, I'm not taking this. You screw up, you're out the door. And how many of these companies are we finding out just because a report focused last year, about 6 months ago, a report came out about them trying to update the safety systems with regards to FMCSA. And they're talking about revamping the entire system to basically a red light, green light type thing. Okay. The reason they're doing that is because of situations like this. They are deficient, meaning the companies are deficient in actually doing what's called the right thing. They're doing things because they want their bottom line to exceed. They want profits up. They want returns up. They want ROI better. Well, what's happening? What's happening is we're getting hit. We are the ones getting flagged because we are the ones being told by these guys, you need to do X, you need to do Y. This fella, Dwayne Carter, he was instructed by his fleet manager to tell investigators, you had Dwayne Sykes, you just dropped him off. This is what happened, A, B, C. I'm not spouting speculation here. This is fact, in part, in public, written down, recorded. It's not speculation. It's fact. Triton Logistics, in fact, told him, do this, say this, do that. Got him in trouble. Dwayne Carter probably has a crap record now. Dwayne Sykes is suspect and probably won't be able to get a good job to save his life for the rest of his life. And we're left cleaning up the crumbs after the fact. I mean, think about it, Frank. If you worked for a company like that and you had to deal with that kind of reputation, what would you do? 5 seconds. You've got no time. Answer me now. What would you do?
Wouldn't stay there. That's for sure. Guaranteed.
Yeah. Without even thinking, without any thought whatsoever. You are the captain of your vessel. What do you do when you're captain of your vessel? Tell me.
Well,
what
whenever
do you
you're the
do?
captain of your ship, vessel, I say, you know the rules, you know the regulations, you know the laws. You make the call. If it's a good call, if it's a bad call, you make the decision, whether your company wants you to do it or not. If they want to fire you because you're not going to follow them, forget it.
Fleet manager's on the phone with you right now telling you, you have to get that load 700 miles away from where you're at right now. You know full well that 700 miles is going to involve 15 hours of driving. What do you tell them?
No, I'm not going to do it. It's just not going to happen.
Yep. And believe you me, the reason I ask him the question, I'm still trying to get used to this left and right. The reason I ask him the question is because I've been tasked with that before. And I did exactly what he did. I said, no, you know what? It's just going to have to wait. You're going to have to wait and reschedule the load. That's how you handle it. That's how you're safe. And that's how you maintain a reputation that follows you. And that's what's most important in this industry today. So one more question. Let's see if we can get some involvement. If you guys want to talk to us about this, give us a call, 860-785-3547. Give us an idea what your thoughts are on these questions and how can we work together? Let's hold companies accountable for ensuring safer, more transparent trucking industry. And I'm not just talking just blanket, hey, let's do hours of service. I'm talking about other things too. I mean, think about it. It's not just hours of service, but there's other things too. I've talked in previous lives. If you followed my channel, you'll know I'm big on safety. I'm big on pre-trips. I'm big on safety requirements, rules. I don't want more rules and regulations from legislators. I just want more common sense in the industry. Again, my tagline, in case you haven't met me, is let's make trucking again. Let's get back to the basics of what makes trucking great to begin with. A lot of you people on the sidelines, and you talk about, oh, well, in my day, this, and in my day, that, the man staring you in the face, sitting right next to me, is famous for, his grumpy old trucker rants. Well, think about it. You're either going to sit there and rant yourself to death and talk about what you used to do back in the day, or are you going to become part of the solution? Think about it. Sit there and bitch all day long about what's wrong, what's not right in this industry today, or you get off your ass and make an effort to make it right. Let's make trucking great again. So what can be done to hold these companies accountable? What can we do now to make these companies not wind up like Triton Logistics and on the news talking crap and making us look bad? What's your thoughts, Frank?
I believe more of us drivers need to start looking into the factor that if they're doing the e-log cheating, basically running ghost logs, don't work for that company. Yeah, sure, you're going to make more money because you're running more and harder, but you're wearing your body out, you're getting tired, you're going to wind up in an accident like this gentleman that Bossman's talking about, and then you've got big problems, and then your career comes to an end. So follow the laws, follow the regulations. It's that simple.
At the end of the day, it's your career. It's your decision to yay or nay, whatever the company tells you to do. If you yay a good thing, you're going to make a lot of money. You're going to go places. But if you nay a good thing, or you say yay to some shady practice that leads you to creaming a bus and killing 4 people, well, you deserve what you get. But at the same time, it's not just us drivers; it's the companies that employ us. And the NTSB can talk all day long about carrying a database for pilots, and they can talk all day long about putting us on a similar database and making things rough on us. What's to stop someone from creating a database? Here's a novel concept. Think about this. What's to stop someone like us to creating a database that basically says, don't work here. Don't work for this company for X reason. I mean, if you had your choice and you worked for, hypothetically, I'm not putting anybody out. Let's say you worked for Swift, and Swift was just that bad of a company, and they were forcing you to do unsafe things, and you wanted to make everybody in the world aware, better than Ike Stevens, that Swift has it in for the industry. What say you not create a database? Let's start letting everybody else know, and create a way in which you can sit there on your keyboard and look. Well, now in addition to Swift, we got this one, we got that one, and before you know it, any company that has bad records or just shady practices, you can see it. I'm sure there's such a database out there. I'll probably get comments left, right, and sideways, both now and post replay. By all means, if you know something, put it in the comments. Tell me. Well, let others know where to go look. But think about it. If we had that database and we had a way of doing it, would you be down for it? What say you, Frank?
I'd say yes. And to add to that, in a way, we kind of do right now and have had for years, which is the CSA score.
Yeah.
And it is public domain. Check that company's CSA score. If they got a high CSA score, I wouldn't go to work there. The lower, the better. And it brings out in the point system, so everything is numbered on what it is. So if they have a high record of running illegal laws, it's going to show it.
Right. We have a surprise guest 50 minutes into the show. Right. Let's welcome Gilligan.
Surprise guest 50 minutes into the show. Let's welcome Gilligan. God.
You got
My bad. I thought it was 7:30 our time.
Well, glad to hear you, but you got to do something about that echo.
Well, glad to hear you, but you got to do something about that echo.
That's a grumpy old trucker there.
Yeah, you must have YouTube player. Do you have a YouTube player, Gilligan? Go ahead and kill it. And I'll be back in a minute. Anyway, I'll bring him back on in just a minute so he does not think I'm leaving him. I'm just not going to confuse the guests. But what I want to ask Gilligan about is when he comes back, I want to ask him what he thinks about the whole topic, what we just got done doing. So if Gilligan, if you've turned off your player or whatever you have on your phone, I'm going to come back to you. I want you to tell me what you think about putting on companies that don't work correctly, don't do the right thing, separate from the CSA that Frank brought up. What do you think we can do to make bigger companies accountable and keep them so that we can find them publicly? So what say you on that, Gilligan?
We can find them publicly. So what say you on that, Gilligan?
That's kind of tough.
You're gonna have to
There's
kill
a
your
lot of things
YouTube on your
that
phone.
most of it, Grumpy Trucker probably did cover.
Yeah, Gilligan, you've got that player going. You need to turn YouTube off on your phone or on whatever you're doing, because that my show is playing from the start right now. It is playing in the background. I can hear it, and it's not on my device or yours. You have to turn that player off and just StreamYard only. That is all you need to have on your device. Anybody that does this guest thing, if you click on the StreamYard link, it's StreamYard only. That's all you need to have on your player at the point. Do not play YouTube. Do not play anything in the background, because that's what happens. Gilligan, if that's not going to work for you, call our studio line. Give us a call here. Call us, say 860-785-3547. We'll certainly entertain that. He's trying to come back in, so just bear with us a moment. I mean, we're talking about a bad accident 15 months ago with Triton Logistics. They're bad. I mean, the way they worked it out. I mean, the bad way they logged drivers in, the way they logged them out. Let's see if Gilligan's back in on the right frame here. What say you on the whole database issue I brought up a moment ago, Gilligan? I think he's locked. I don't know what. Yeah, I don't know if you got a black screen. I could see him, but he's locked up. So keep trying there, my friend. We'll bring you back. We'll bring you back on if you have the ability to get your signal straightened out. As soon as I see him moving in the thing there, we'll see what he does.
Well, I
bottom line is,
deep in them.
Yeah, he does. Yeah. I mean, bottom line is it's almost becoming like the trucking industry is turning into another airline. It's becoming almost that problematic. And I'm looking at him. Let's try him again. Let's see what he's got to say. What say you about databases there? Well,
where'd he go?
Gilligan, you're a problem child, my friend. You really are. We got about 5 more minutes on this show, Gilligan. If you want to try again, by all means, keep trying. We'll bring you on. But it seems like the trucking industry is almost reaching its pinnacle to the point where we're almost as bad as the airlines. I mean, nowadays with the airlines, you've got to check into a hotel, you've got to certify, you've got X amount of number of hours of sleep. You've got to basically prove it to not only the airlines but the FAA. Same thing with our trucking industry, and that's that we've not only got to prove our company we're on the up and up, but we now also got to prove to DOT, FMCSA. So let's see if we can get something out of Gilligan now. I mean, what are your thoughts on the database there, my friend?
Yes, I heard the music.
No, we're good. We're clear. What are your thoughts with respects to the database I referred to earlier, and what do you think needs to happen? Do we need to have something other than the CSA database that currently exists to maybe track what companies actually do things right? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. As far as making it to where on that part, it's just so hard to try to put a new system in for these bigger companies because they're going to reject it.
Well, I mean, think about it from
and
the
then
perspective.
still try to make it fair enough for a smaller company.
Right. Think about it from the perspective of a driver. You can only on what you see in front of you. As a company, you fall back on your PSP scores, your CSAs. So as a company, you have plenty to pull from to see if the driver you're looking to hire is safe. But now you as a driver, what do you have to fall back on? The only thing you can do is look at the FMCSA. You can see what their safety rating is, and you can see if maybe historically they've been involved in maybe a couple of accidents or different deals. Other than that, what have you got to go on? Nothing. Do you think maybe it's high time, Gilligan, that we actually start and create a database similar to what has been historically there for us drivers on those bigger companies too? What do you think?
Oh, definitely.
I mean, would that help you making a decision to drive for a bigger company,
I
maybe?
think
Or would
we
that,
should have oh yeah.
yeah. I mean, think about it. I
I
mean,
mean, for
there's
any company, as far as that goes, I mean, whatever, you try to go to a company, I mean, they only tell you just a little bit of what it is of them whenever they can find every little detail about you.
right. So it seems like we're at a disadvantage, doesn't it? So in terms of, I mean,
Yep.
technological adjustments and things that we could do as drivers. Let's leave this show on a positive. Frank, what do you think can be done aside from what we talked about that would say possibly benefit the drivers trying to find a solution to better information sources, maybe finding a way to enhance our ability to find companies that may be like Triton and weed out those possibilities so we can have a way of finding a safe company? What are your thoughts there?
I say share information, but share good information. Don't go off and just tear down a company because they were terrible to you. Just, and now a lot of them are available on the internet where you can leave scores and talk about them in their discussion boards. Not all of it gets posted, but Google has a lot of that. So there's a good start there. But as we were saying earlier, I say we could come up with an actual app that maybe all of us drivers could throw in on that, and that would help also.
Yeah, yeah. I think that would be a good place to start. I mean, that would be definitely it would go a long way to helping out. I mean, honestly, there's a lot that can be said about PSPs and CSAs and all that, but we still have issues with things like Triton Logistics. We still have issues with the very accidents you see taking place. And it was long drawn out court battles, which in the very end really doesn't do us as an industry any good. So, Gilligan, any last thoughts on what you've observed, seen, any comments that you'd like to interject into tonight's show? I'm
I
getting
think
the
he
feeling
froze.
he's locked up. I think he's locked up. Yep.